When I was a kid, the term management used to fascinate me. Everyone successful seemed to be doing an MBA, and for a while, MBA was probably even the new cool. To an outsider, managing as a term looks very easy, but it's anything other than being easy. Some people work at startups, and their definition of management is very broad, always shifting context, taking on new things. Then there are teams at companies like Google, Microsoft, Amazons of the world, where hundreds of people and numerous product managers, numerous developers are just working on the most intricate of stuff that you could think of. That search bar that you see in your browser probably has a team of 200 engineers behind it, and you wouldn't even care about it. So, product management as a domain takes different shapes and form. And it took me a while before I figured that out. Today, we are going to look at both these sides and what it takes to actually be a product manager. This is with the intent of developing a sense of not actually being left behind, as there are so many things that are moving in the world. Today with us, we have Ananya Vats. Ananya is a product manager at Google and has been previously a product manager at Microsoft and Swiggy, which, by the way, if you are from the US or on the West side, is the equivalent of DoorDash in India to some extent. Ananya is also a chapter lead for Women in Product and for a brief while was a vice president at Toastmasters International. She commands a lovely audience over LinkedIn, and today we are going to hear some secrets from her, even when it comes to personal branding. Welcome to the show, Ananya. How are you doing today?
Hi Vikram, I'm doing good. How are you?
All good. It's a pleasure hosting you. Let's dive in. There's so much I wanted to talk about. Super excited about it. Ananya, but I have a very offbeat question if you don't mind starting with that. It's a personal curiosity. So there are tons of PMs everywhere. How does Ananya garner a following of about 35K people? What's the secret sauce? Who told you build an audience? Why did you build it? How did you build it? How is it helping you?
Strangely enough, I did not consciously build it. So one of my friends one day sent me a screenshot saying that, bro, you have 20,000 followers on LinkedIn. What's happening? And that was the day I saw the number. I was pleasantly surprised. But I think in terms of posts, I love writing longer posts because I'm a writer. So it kind of falls under the intersection of me wanting to write more, I would say, in detail compared to more like a one line or one sentence post. And it just happened organically. I didn't really think more about it.
Do you think
And
about it now?
I know about it now. So now it's like I'm more aware of, okay, I can't just post anything. Uh, but again, it just feels like whatever I'm thinking about. So my I think the latest post is about books and reading, and it has nothing to do with product management or tech. Because I love books, so I continue sharing about things I like when I like, and not really think about it in terms of content creation.
That's a very valuable asset you're carrying with it. Like 35,000 audience is no joke, and it's impressive. Plus, on top, if the context that you are saying, I was not aware of it. To me, it looks like anyone who's 30,000, 25,000 is intentionally trying to do it. I'm a founder. A lot of people out there are posting actively because, of course, at the end of the day, it helps you. Like when you have an audience, getting a feedback is easy. I think like the best example for me is when Elon Musk wanted to introduce the $8 was probably the amount that he was mentioning for Twitter back then. And the first figure that came out, he was like, hey, should we go about doing it? And I was amazed. Like there were millions of reactions, engagements, impressions, and so quickly somebody like him could just get a feedback, something that probably the original Twitter team would have taken months to research from. So it's very impressive. Like audience is a big asset, and at the end of the day, I think like what you're just saying is stick to whatever you feel like talking, and the audience follows, which is very, which is like something which I think probably everyone knows, but it's very, very, very tough to follow for people who don't have an audience. Awesome, Ananya. Let's take a step back. This was a personal curiosity. How has your career shaped up? Like, let's just start with a general introduction about what you do. How have you reached where you are? What is Women in Product? Who is Ananya outside of whatever we see on LinkedIn? Hi everyone, welcome to Just Crunch It. I'm your host, Vikram, and Just Crunch It has been curated for anyone who cares about data. This podcast is for you if you are starting up or rethinking how things will evolve with all the latest technological advancements. This is for you if you use data in your day to day or are just thinking about getting started with a career in data and data science in general. We touch upon nuances, areas where data is underlooked, overanalyzed, mistakes we make, perspectives that people have, future, AI, amongst all the other things. The goal, honestly, is just to ask some very hard hitting, honest questions about data, business, and everything in between.
So I've been a product manager for 4 plus years, and it's very interesting because I had no idea what a PM does or who a PM is until I went for my MBA. And like a lot of people, I wanted to get into marketing or consulting, and I prepared for these two domains and like the companies which were supposed to come. Uh, but then coincidentally, Microsoft came on campus. I got shortlisted, and because I prepared for consulting case interviews, I actually did pretty well in product case interviews. The essence of both of them is similar, like having an ambiguous problem statement and breaking it down into smaller components. I feel that I was really lucky that I got in, and yeah, I got the internship at Microsoft. That's how I started. And at the internship itself, I fell in love with the domain. So that's where I kind of knew, okay, this is like a cool role. It also matches with the skill sets and the interests that I have. And now I think 5 years later, I'm still in product management. I have again been lucky enough to try out very different domains. I started with the conversational assistant Cortana. Not sure if you would have heard of the name, but I worked on it for a couple of months, then moved to like artificial intelligence platform, which is basically having intelligent features for Outlook and Teams, which was really cool. We did a bunch of cool projects there. Then I kind of wanted to try something new in more Indian space, and that's how I moved to Swiggy. Um, and loved the journey there, although it was a smaller one. Worked on search and recommendations and was very much directly in touch with the consumers. And then Google happened. A recruiter reached out, and before I knew it, because I always kind of wanted to be in Google also, so that was also like one of the factors. And at Google, I worked on a developer platform called AppScript for a while, and currently I'm working on my favorite product of all time, Google Maps. So pretty happy with the whole journey, and I would say pretty lucky to have experienced a different types of, across the product spectrum, from B2C to, platforms, AI products, now currently maps. So it's been a great experience.
Wow.
And apart from work, I am also the Bangalore chapter lead of Women in Product. I think it mainly started through LinkedIn. Like one of my connects, basically, she posted about this. I anyway love connecting with like people, and this felt like a great opportunity to know more women in tech. And mostly we organize events, host webinars around some shared knowledge sessions, and it's been a lovely journey. We plan to do more of that in this year, so like keep a watch out for that. And I think for me, it's great, like just being in sort of a community with shared interests. um, I love having such communities, like apart from product and tech also. I was a part of a writers community. I am a part of several book clubs. So more often than not, you'll find me reading books from those book clubs. And I love to travel.
Wow. Wow.
So
So
that's
books, travel, ignorance. I think ignorance is a bliss is what I'm looking at here. And when I say ignorance, I frame it in a positive way. We sometimes overthink our decisions, and I love how your journey has unfolded. Like you were prepping for consulting, and from there landing into product management. But coming to women in product, who is women in product for? Who should reach out to you if they wanted to join in?
So, Women in Product is essentially a community for anyone who is either in product management or is interested in. So, it's for all. You need not be like a seasoned PM to get in. And also, the events which we host are mostly open to all. So anyone, irrespective of their gender identity, can actually join in and learn, because obviously learning is something that is, should be accessible to everyone. Although the group itself, it's women specific, or and that there's a reason, because it's to enable the mutual growth and learning.
Yeah.
And it started out as just a community of people or a community of women, but more than that, it is a safe space. So you can ask questions about anything and everything. So there are people asking questions around, okay, how to do this, or does anyone has an experience with this tool? And people have answers, or they have people who have answers, right? So it's become such a loving community, that whenever we meet, it's not another product manager, but it's a friend that we have in the city. Or even online, it's like we know that we all have shared goals towards growth and like just being better professionals. So I think it is for anyone and everyone who is interested in kind of advancing their product journey. And yeah, I think
Wow.
that is about it.
That's a beautiful way to put it. But Anya, I'm curious. I know my brother would want me to ask you this question. Google Maps. Everyone, I love the product as well. It's like I can't think of something that I use as much as Google Maps. Probably WhatsApp, and that's also because a whole bunch of my Indian friends are too much onto WhatsApp. But now that the product is done, how big is the Google Maps team? What are you doing on it now? Like, are there newer things getting added? Like, i- and I'm asking it from the lens of someone out there who's thinking about, this is what product management is, right? Like, so I will merge this question with my broader question, which is Swiggy, which is a very fast paced company, and Microsoft or Google, which are relatively very granular in their approach. What was the difference as you were working at the two orgs? Was it very different? Did you take time to adapt? Uh, how was that transition?
uh, People do find, like, people would have different answers to the question. I think mainly because Microsoft and Google are just too big, that different teams have different subcultures, and depending on your product, your experience might be different. For me, I did not find it too different. Coming from Swiggy to Google, and I think one of the bigger reasons for that was that I'd already worked at Microsoft. So I started my career with a company with this great documentation culture, lots of people, right? Products at scale, things, actually getting shipped at a certain pace. And then I moved to Swiggy, which was obviously, it was consumer space. It was a much smaller company and faster than. So for me, the overall difference between, say, a Swiggy and a Microsoft Google was not that much. It depended completely on the product that I'm working on. But the difference between a B2B and B2C, for me, is a much bigger difference than the size of the company, or how a company operates. um, Especially within Microsoft, I saw teams working in a completely different velocity and different way. Obviously, there's this Uber company principles, right, that everyone follows. But in terms of the velocity of shipping and everything, things did vary a lot. So it's tough to generalize. Totally depends on the type of the product. But yes, from a consumer space to, say, a developer platform, was very different, and Maps is much closer to Swiggy than the developer platform, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that absolutely makes sense, and I think that's part of the misconception. Like, just because an org is very big doesn't mean that it's slow. And I intentionally ask that question because I have been guilty of assuming that, oh my god, what is even happening, right? Like, why things must be moving so slow, and so on and so forth. But Ananya, you talked about something which struck a chord with me. You said that you are a writer, and I I can't emphasize it how important is writing to, like, even my journey as a founder. On those days where you are absolutely lost, you just go about writing down or pouring your thoughts on whatever is going on in your head, and suddenly a lot of things start becoming clearer. But the broader question here is, like, writing is probably helping you as a PM as well today. But there are these companies, a lot of people who aspire to be a product manager. A lot. I think that's probably one of the most looked after professions, at least in the tech industry and the product industry that I have seen more people wanting to be a PM. Like, of course, once they become a PM, the aspirations change as they should. But you have been at it for like 4 or 5, whatever number of years now. And there's a whole bunch of new technological shift that's happening. There is AI coming over. You did like consulting based, you had like a prep for a consulting role. Now you were asked a certain kind of question. There is a different kind of skill set. And maybe today also it's very close to what you were doing. But 10 years later, the person a company which is established would hire, and it could be any company for that matter, would be probably on a different skill set. Do you have any thoughts on what are the new skills that are going to become more valuable? And this is a question that is directly intended to answer to everyone in our audience who's thinking about how do I get into a PM role. If you're thinking about getting into a PM role 5 years later, probably the way to get into a PM role today is going to be very different from what you would have to develop in yourself. And 5 years is a very good time span for you to prepare yourself skill wise. So, any thoughts there?
Yeah, I feel the time span kind of makes it tricky to answer because the role itself is evolving. And five still, but 10 years later, I am sure the product role would be very different from what it is today. Uh, but I think I'll stick to the basics, which I feel would be the core to what product management is today. And if it remains, at least the essence remains the same, those basic skills would be still relevant. So first is going back to the writing communication. And I feel that is something which is irrespective of product management or any other role. Clear, articulate communication is really, really essential. Thinking clearly and then sharing what you have thought, either in person or on chats, emails, presentations, PRDs, everything. The modes could be different, and I feel 10 years later it might be way different. Thinking metaverses and all. But the communication kind of remains the same. So just mastering the communication skills. And I truly believe communication can be learned. So just, and that's the reason I joined Toastmasters also. I just realized I'm nervous when I'm on stage and I'm not, talking to a friend or talking to like one person. So there are different ways to improve that, but that's the number one skill for anyone, irrespective of whatever profession you're looking at. Uh, the second thing, and this is a little more related to AI, is thinking a little more consciously about how you're making decisions. A lot of times we make decisions influenced by external factors, and it might be biased. Now, it doesn't mean that the person is not good at heart or something, right? Like it might be that, but mostly we don't put that much thought into what we are doing. So that ethical decision making and conscious decision making, especially when we are collaborating with a machine, is really, really important skill set that I see being more relevant in the future. It's just starting to take off right now, so it's okay if we don't think about it. Like it's not okay, it's not noticeable. I would rather rephrase it that way. But yeah, I think going forward it's going to be highly relevant. And then the third is to kind of structure things into a more I won't say solvable, but still smaller chunks which could be understood better. A lot of the problems that we are solving right now are ambiguous. They're not easy problems. Like it's really hard to find an easy problem which has not been solved by anyone till now. So most of the things, whether we talk about products, whether we talk about the society in general, are hard problems. And hard also means ambiguous. So the ability to think about an ambiguous problem statement, to break it into parts, to structure it in a way which you can call it structured thinking also. I think that is also something which is highly relevant to a product manager. Uh, for them to be able to think from all the lenses, from a tech lens, business lens, design lens, yes, but then are they also thinking from, say, a legal point of view, from how the environment of the geography that they're going to launch the product in? So there's so many different ways to think about your product, and a PM should be able to wear the hat in whichever situation they find themselves in. So I think that is also something which would be relevant. And I think the last would be creativity in general. And creativity need not be like expressed in, say, you're writing poetry, or, you making a artwork, although that's great if you're doing it. But mainly, I mean originality of ideas and thought, and not just repeating what you're hearing like around you. So there's just so many good newsletters, good content, bad content around us, that if we are just repeating someone else's ideas, we're not adding values, and then chat gpt or bard would just reproduce the same ideas again, right? So to differentiate ourselves and to differentiate our thoughts, creativity is really important. It can be developed, but more importantly, it need to be practiced enough. And yeah, I personally do like a lot of journaling or do a lot of idea sessions, just to come out with new ideas on a daily basis, probably weekly basis. And I think that is something that just keeps your thought process more original and relevant.
Yeah, no, that's a brilliant summary, and I like how you were in the flow while speaking about that. So I think I was reading it somewhere that as AI is going to become the de facto way of working, AI powered X, AI powered Y, there are these people who are going to have much better MVPs, as we call it in the product world, minimum viable products, right? Like there are going to be like much better MVPs. And then everyone is going to have like a much better looking tech, a much better looking content piece that goes with it. But because of the way AI is being trained and the tons of data sets, it's all literature based. It's based on how we as human beings talk about. And most of the human beings are really bad at articulation. Like if you pick 1,000 people, one or two of them are extremely good at articulating what they're saying in a concise fashion. That articulation is probably also going to become, and this ties to the core point you were making about writing and like communication. So I am 100% in alignment with you, but we in our audience, Aranya, have a lot of data folks. Right now, Microsoft as an org, Swiggy as an org, Google as an org, these are all definitely companies that a lot of people look up to. For the curiosity of everyone who's from a data background, what's the tendency when it comes to data and like using it, let's say, in your day to day as a product manager, uh, across your journey so far, across all the orgs?
Sure. So I think I've been lucky enough to be working with good product companies. And in that sense, in each of the orgs, data has been really, really fundamental to the decision making. Um, and it's not the data itself which is that useful. Like, I personally believe data is like the materials or the elements, but what you get out of data is, and how you use the data. So if you just have, okay, these are the numbers or these are the logging that I have, but you're not able to draw insights, it's actually useless. Um, and data has also, like, apart from just keeping a track on how the product is performing, or whether this makes sense or not, data has always been the, I would say, the best support that any argument can have. And that is what I'm learning, and it's a work in progress for me. Um, so obviously we do track metrics, and we do understand, okay, these are the results, or this, the product is not doing good, or these are the tweaks that we should make, right? And that sort of experimentation mindset and data driven mindset is uh, established, and it's something that I learned from day one. So although I did take my time in learning, but it's still there. But what is, I would say, new for me as a PM is using the data to also support my arguments, using the data to also kind of build opinions, I would say more informed opinions. And it's not just, hollow opinions or intuition. Although for a PM, intuition is a great sort of skill set, but I think it's only so much that you can, do your intuitive decision making and intuitive opinions.
Yeah.
I think that is something that I'm learning, how to refine my thought process using data, how to gather supportive evidence on what I'm thinking. And if it's not supporting, then, question my hypothesis itself and question that, okay, why am I thinking in a certain way?
Yeah.
So, I think, yeah, that's like my current journey with being like a more informed PM, using data more constructively.
Wow. So I'm hearing a lot of very important points, and I want to dig further deep. So I'm hearing context, I'm hearing information from data, I'm hearing insights as opposed to number, I'm hearing decision making. Most people are really bad at decision making. And when I say decision making, that's even in my experience as a founder, the average person who's crunching the data, they may be exceptionally good at crunching the data, but looking at it from the lens of a business is a very different, right? Like, and product managers have to be extremely good at it. Like intuition, you were very spot on in saying that your hunch or the product sense or intuition, these different terminologies that people use, that will probably give you a temporary boost and it will maybe boost your career faster. But then there is a limit to how high you can go. Even the best of the people, I was speaking to someone at Samsung, and I won't name them, but the very high level data, um, you can imagine like they pretty much command a large part of Samsung's analytics. And they came and said that, Vikram, every time there is a question, we need the answer to us, like answer served within 5 minutes. If the answer is not in front of them in 5 minutes to any data question, Samsung is going to lose millions and millions by every minute. And it's usually in those scenarios I was like, how have you prepared for it? And then they started talking about all of these other companies, the likes of which we would not even think of. So we all look at OpenAI and these names, and even there, the best of the best folks are so much basing their decision based on data. Of course, not just like blindly looking at numbers and not adding it with a, like not adding the human context in there. But my question to you broadly is, as a product manager, you have to add a lot of business context, but most person, for that matter data analysts, they don't have that context. Business analysts also, I see most of them struggling with how to make sense of what they are looking at. And for in scenarios where there is a question coming from the very top, understanding what the question is probably more important than actually writing the query. Otherwise, like, query could be written by anyone. How has that context come into your day-to-day thinking? Like, what have you done that you have that context today? How are you improving it? How can someone build that context?
So, I think as PMs, one of the very, very important thing for us is to have a holistic sort of context. So it's not just business, but also like when I'm sitting in a room with marketeers, I should know what, the tech point of view is. I should be the tech voice there. Or if I'm sitting in a room of engineers, I should be the, marketing or design voice there. So as a PM, you kind of have to navigate among different stakeholders and have a broader knowledge of each of the role and how different pieces fit together, so that I'm able to point out. So that is one. What I and you're right in terms of, if there is less context, just writing in the queries really won't generate the answers that, in most cases, won't generate the answers that you're looking for. So there are different ways to kind of keep the analytics team or the data team in loop. One way is sharing the PRD early on. Then obviously just making sure that the problem statement itself is clear enough and it's not just a data ask, but more of a step in product development. It's a crucial step. So just having them looped in and working together, even when there's something that I am doing or someone else is doing, having a very very shared understanding of context is important. And the easiest way to do that is to write it down, because sometimes things get translated, according to what you are thinking or what I'm thinking. But if I write it down in like a email or in a PRD, then that's like a shared thing, shared document. And it's important to build that understanding early than later, because otherwise it just leads to iterations.
Got
And how to build that context, I think a lot of it gets built through relationships and just
it. Mm,
talking to people across domains, not just in terms of we're working on project X, can you do Y, but more in terms of could you explain me what you do, how's your day-to-day work like, or what are the projects you're working on. Just having that sort of conversation, general conversations with everyone around different roles, helps build that context around, okay, this person also does these four interesting projects which probably I am not collaborating with, but then I know like who to reach out to, right? So the best way to build context is to build relationships in a company. And then apart from that, this is usual: read newsletters, listen to podcasts, and just keeping ourselves upskilled and updated.
yeah. There are even these subtle nuances. So it reminds me of my days back with the product. And I was working with a very tough boss. Like he was very impatient. And you'd go present him. People would be scared of like getting into the office and making a presentation because you don't know how it's going to go. And I was still like, of course, once in a while, I would also be on the other end where something that we have developed is not as per the expectation, but I had developed this habit of like looking at the eye of that person, right? Like, and the minute they start flinching, like you just see this, it's like this happening. I'm like, okay, something is wrong. You need to immediately like change, gauge what is wrong, change what, and then it would like, sure, you do whatever you can do there. Maybe it's a presentation where you will be given some feedback, you work on it. But what was most important for me was like, I was like, why did the eyes flinch when I was making this statement? How is that person who is making the call in that room, who has grown up, who has seen much more than I have seen, why are they flinching, right? Like, and just thinking deeply about that question enabled me to actually like have a much better pulse in general over the meaning behind that one abstract sentence that you get. So the problem statements would be like, hey, there's this company, they want to use customer data to better do customer service, and that means nothing. Like that could mean 100 different things in 100 different worlds. And how do you make sense of that? What is that? And then go make a presentation that it actually boosts your career a lot as well. So that is an ability, and 100% aligned with you there. But Ananya, I have a very different question, and this is with personal, out of personal curiosity again. As you were talking about Google Maps, Microsoft, these big companies decision making, and as I was thinking about how we as founders think, we have a section of people in our audience who are also founders. Right now, let's say today I'm building a product which is about, it does something. Let's say I'm building a dashboard for you, and if I go and take that out and think of who is going to use this product, I can list a whole bunch of people saying that they may be probably interested. Let's talk to them, let's talk to them. But most of these founders, when it comes to like thinking about, would someone like incumbent use it, right? Like, and take it anyone for that matter. It could be again like the Amazon, Microsoft, Googles of the world. Now we have more names in there, like the whole Meta, Fang, and new companies getting added. There is this inherent feeling or thought in the head that probably that team has grown so big, like you have maybe 50,000 employees, 20,000 employees, 10,000 employees, that you would probably build it in house, right? Like now, as someone who has worked at bigger orgs, and this is not specifically with any one org in question, what would you advise to a founder who has a product? Because I'm sure there are these bigger orgs also that have their problems. There's like, there is enough dirt in any room, and you can just go and figure out ways to solve it. Is it okay if the founder is just assuming that the org has grown so big that they would probably always solve for a problem in house? Or should they still go in and approach these incumbents? Because at the end of the day, I'm sure, let's say today you are at Google, you are still using services that are probably not developed by Google. Not everything you are doing is probably developed by Google. So, any thoughts in general there? And this is purely out of my personal curiosity.
Sure. So I don't know the dynamics of how it works. Like I've never been involved in that sort of decision making. But again, like my hunch as a product manager, I think if I'm a PM of a product which I'm trying to sell to more B2B customers, I would mainly look at two things, right? So it's not just because the number of users is so much, it makes sense to have a in-house. It's also the integration with other products and the whole privacy security issue, because like I feel in B2B that is like a bigger constraint than anything else. So just taking a more closer look at what are the exact pain points and how is an internal product kind of solving for it versus how the external product could solve for it, right? So if the integration with other products is smoother, if the privacy and is like taken care of, then probably it has a better sort of chances compared to something which is completely external, right? I think that is really important. Secondly, again, it's like about the value prop. Every product ultimately comes to the value prop. Is the value prop multiplied or amplified by scale, or is it something that just remains constant? If it's amplified by scale, it actually has a great sort of pitching point to the larger org, because you have a lot of users. So for it, as someone who has worked in B2B, I think just thinking about from that shoe and thinking about enterprises as enterprises as a bunch of customers. For me, it's not one person. Like there's firstly the IT admin,
Yeah.
who are mostly responsible for which team uses product to which level, the privacy, the permissions, access level. They have a lot on their plate
Yeah.
to understand that. Then there are the developers in that org who would probably use the product a lot more and like create solutions and stuff. Then there are the common users, which would probably use the basic functionalities and all. And then there is someone who is going to buy the product, right? Which would be the decision maker on the business side. So for B2B PM, these are all the customers, and they can all come from the same org. So just thinking about it in terms of the pain points of the company, the pain points of all the different customer types,
Yeah.
um, could actually be one way to go about
No,
it.
and that's a precise way of looking at it. Like an enterprise is not one customer. That's a bunch of customers. I love that. And then even that scale point that you made, which is can the value prop scale up? Most products struggle with this, and but this was a very helpful answer. Ananya, we are almost nearing the end of our show here. I'll quickly ask two very candid questions. So, AI is changing a lot of things. I give you $5 million today. What are you going to build? Like, what are you in general most excited about?
Uh, so I am a huge tech optimist. I love that AI human collaboration is going at the pace that it is today, which is huge. Um, in terms of what I'm most excited about, it's two things, and both are coming from very different sorts of thought process. First is healthcare. That's because I feel that the impact, like the
Yeah,
global impact, would be huge. I've seen in India the healthcare is really scattered and really broken. I firmly believe that AI could solve that. At least the detection of early stage diseases, the availability of virtual doctors, and it's a really impactful area. People are doing great job, but there's so much else that could be done. So that is one. And the second is very personal. It's creativity. I love Midjourney. I love using AI for having different sorts of interpretations. I still don't use generative AI for writing because I feel I write better. But I can't wait to, actually use it as a co-editor or co-writer, and use it not just as a research tool, which most people are doing it, but actually as someone you can bounce ideas off, right? And I feel that's totally possible in near future, not even far future. So what AI could do in creativity, it's not about people going out of job, or things getting just created by AI. And it's also about amplifying the creative process itself,
yeah,
which forces the current artists and creatives to push their boundaries to and the I feel the faster we embrace that, the I would say the better the experience would be. I'm personally super excited for that.
Wow. No, yeah. Awesome. And like the second bit of my question is any learnings that you have had. So we have had a lot of learnings, and I was just, it's a very deep statement that you made there, that the impact on healthcare and then like that creativity bit. Um, I resonate with everything you said, and we have been learning a lot of things. I started with ignorance is bliss and all that, but any learnings you have had that you'd like to share with everyone who's listening to us today?
You meant in context of AI or overall, like
Overall,
career wise?
Ananya's life, any learnings you have had so far?
Okay, people are really important, more important than you think. And I'm not talking just friends to, hang out with, but mentors, professional mentors. And I feel my life wouldn't be the same if I hadn't have such amazing mentors. Most of them I got in Microsoft, and it really changed how I think about things, how I also, apart from the work itself, how I am in my life. So, my first mentor was my internship mentor. He made sure that apart from the project that I was assigned, I also met women leaders all across Microsoft. And Microsoft obviously had people with 10, 15 years of work ex. And, I could just meet them for 15 minutes and see, I want to be like this, or
Hmm.
this is how I want to be, like, down the line, which is a great sort of impression for a young person, that you see the future you, or at least some version of it. Then I had a mentor who really taught me it's okay to not speak in the calls. It's okay to not always be the loudest talker, as long as you get the work done, as long as you build relationships, which was a very, very important lesson for me, because I always used to get anxious that I didn't talk enough, or, someone cut me, or I didn't have anything smart to say. Um, then there was a person who really taught me the nuances of, how to write a PRD, how to actually have different sections, and like really craft of writing well, like in a professional context. So there are very core skill sets that I learned through other people, and not really like a book or an article. I can totally attribute it 100% to them. I still believe really strongly in the power of mentorship and reaching out to people. So if you have even the slightest doubt about something, find someone who does it well and reach out to them. If they are complete strangers, they might not respond, but still, I would say the risk is worth taking, because what if they respond? Your very important thing could, be transformed for better, just by, reaching out to one person or taking the help of one person.
Yeah, seek help. It's the most underrated and the most impactful advice out there. And mentorship, even coaching for that matter, it has personally helped me. I see you mentor people on your LinkedIn. There's a book me for mentorship, or like block a one-on-one mentorship, and I see like that you value it, and it's beautifully put, Ananya. We are nearing the end, so how can someone reach out to you? Of course, I'm gonna like add your profile details in the description when the show goes live, but where should people reach out to you?
Sure. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty accessible. I check my messages at least once a week, if not more. So, for any questions, feel free to do that.
Awesome, Ananya, this was brilliant. I hope you also had a good time. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, it was a great experience. Thank you.
Thank you.